Hey, 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 everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to the AP Lit Review. Another week. It's crazy, isn't it? We are just moving on through the year. And look at my chain. I lowered it 14 links. It's getting shorter and shorter, 14 school days to the exam. I'm Susan Barber. Here's Bear. We're ready to hang out with you for a little while today and talk analysis. I want to give a couple of shout outs. First to Miss Gates' class from Shorewood High School in Seattle, suburban Seattle. Hi to y'all. They've been joining every day, so love that. I've never been to Seattle. It is on my list, on my very short list of places to go. So when this is all over, I'm headed up to see y'all. And also Miss Clevenger's class, and I'm not even sure where this class is located, but a student reached out to me on Twitter and said, hey, could you give a shout out to our class? So hello to Miss Clevenger's class as well. Glad y'all are with us. Like I said, happy Friday. How are you doing, Mr. Escobar?
Disappointed because I still haven't heard from the International Space Station or any former presidents or Khaled Hosseini or Margaret Atwood or William Shakespeare, even though we dedicated our program to him yesterday.
I
But
think he was upset after I talked about Romeo and Juliet.
maybe the bad review dissuaded him from joining us today. But I did get an email from Miss Peterson, and in the bulk of her email, she has a phrase, and the phrase was a spark of light in a dark time, and that got me thinking. It got me thinking a lot, and I think it was at the end of the first or second video. I asked students to reach out to their teachers and thank them. And in this email with Miss Peterson, and she wasn't asking for this at all. This is not, but it's just something that got me thinking. Every teacher out there is trying the best that they can to be a mother, to be a father, to be a friend, a sibling, a caretaker, a teacher. You still have to cook, you still have to find toilet paper, you still have to find Lysol wipes, you still have to
School
entertain the
your own
kids and
kids,
school
maybe.
your own kids. Absolutely. There's so many demands placed upon teachers right now. And all along we've been talking to teachers about how to best calm the kids and how to best instruct the kids and guide the kids. But you know what, guys? The teachers need some love too.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Barber and I have gotten so much love. And
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, that's probably why we're still doing these videos, because they're difficult and they take a lot of time, but they're so enriching and so rewarding in ways that we were not expecting them to be for us. You have to reach out to your teachers and thank
Yes.
them. And as gracious and as grateful and as kind and loving as you have been to us when you write to us, that's how you need to communicate with your teachers. You gotta tell them thank you and ask them for advice, and be mindful of the fact that they are human and they are doing a million things and they're still trying to take care of you. And sometimes a little thank you goes a long, long way. So again, my homework to you today is stop the Netflix, email a teacher, email all your teachers, right? This isn't about the AP community. This is about everybody getting together. Email your non-AP teachers, email your kindergarten teacher, right? Check in on her. How is she doing? um it's time to be humane, and maybe that'll make us a little more human. And with that, let's carry on with today's
Yeah,
lesson.
and let me just real quickly say, I wish we had time to just follow up and with all of the teachers who were getting emails from your students who were just telling us about the amazing people who you are and the amazing things that you're giving them in the classroom. I mean, wow, just to hear what's happening in AP classrooms and hear students brag on their teachers. So heartwarming. Y'all have some
Absolutely.
great kids.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And some great teachers out there. So Miss Peterson, as you stay by that night light, up all night as your baby sleeps, I'm
Mhm.
up all night too, creating these videos and scoring things and watching the news because I'm a little addicted to them, or just, speaking to my wife or having our kids jump into our bed because they're anxious and they can't sleep either. So shout out to all of you. And
I
let's
sleep.
talk
I sleep at
Blithedale.
night.
You do, right? You don't
Yeah,
have a
I do
problem
sleep at
sleeping.
night.
So
Let's
last
jump
night,
in.
yeah, last night we were working with this Zenobia prompt again,
This
and
is
we
our
asked you,
last day on Zenobia.
right? Yeah,
Last day.
we're moving on, and I don't think we're using it ever again.
There
And we
were a
asked you to
couple,
write,
I'm going to say one more thing, then I promise I'm going to be quiet. There were a couple of readers at the reading this year that got Zenobia tattooed on their arm. For
no,
real. I don't
really.
know. I'm pushing my mic up. I'm done.
Wow. Well, with that, I won't be doing that. I don't. I'm not that bold. So you all were supposed to write um your a body paragraph last night, and we really wanted you to focus on your topic sentence and make sure that you pull the right evidence, and that you practice embedding the quotations as we discussed yesterday, and that then you're mindful as to your grammar and whatever your teacher has already told you to focus on. And we wanted to show you a sample body paragraph, and here's one, and then I'm going to read through it, and then we'll talk about what is highlighted and why we highlighted those components. Hawthorne's use of luxurious imagery helps cement the narrator's bafflement, which later manifests into distaste. I want you to notice how a topic sentence is really a mini thesis statement, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the thesis statement is the promise of what the essay will be about, the topic sentence is the promise of what the paragraph will be about. So it should sound a lot like your thesis statement. The narrator describes the opulence of the room, adorned with a chandelier hung down, with an extravagant amount of lights, furniture exceedingly rich, and the presence of fulfillment of every fantasy of an imagination. This use of posh, impressive imagery reveals just how wealthy Zenobia is. Each reference to luxury adds to the self conflict in the narrator as well, as he battles if he ever knew who Zenobia truly was and expresses thoughts of inferiority compared to her. The fact that Zenobia goes from Blithedale Farm, full of equality, to an upscale lifestyle is baffling for the narrator, which is what enables him to reveal his mix of emotions, ranging from shock to complete dislike. When he witnesses her lifestyle, he is burdened with shame as he tries to bear up against the powerful effects of her wealth and beauty, which is what most likely fueled his annoyance towards Zenobia as she was now above him. Notice the things that we highlighted. We highlighted some of the evidence, and look at the use of evidence and how
Mhm.
nicely embedded it is within this sentence
Mhm.
up top. Notice that it's not even a string of quotes, but it's littered with the writer's own writing. It's just rich the way that it's fully embedded and you don't skip a beat. Notice how it is tied to the topic sentence. The topic sentence makes a promise of what this paragraph is going to be about. And what the writer has promised us is that he or she will prove to us that the narrator is baffled and then grows to dislike or has a distaste for what is seen. And we see the bafflement here with the furniture exceedingly rich and the fulfillment of every fantasy and imagination. However, we are reminded that Zenobia did come from that Blithedale farm, and then that contrast, and we've spoken about contrast before and the function of those within passages and within paragraphs, the contrast between what this person is seeing and what this person remembers Zenobia to have lived is what ultimately leads him to the last bit of uh, highlights that we have here, the shame that this person has to bear up against the powerful effect of her health, wealth and beauty. So it is that contrast between the memory of where she comes from and where she is today that leads us to this feeling of shame from
And
the
can I
narrator.
say one more thing about this specific paragraph and topics in it? Yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about organizing by insight, chronological order, and then by device. And it's interesting because this um, topic sentence starts off and it's about device, but really it's so much more than that, because this is a topic sentence built around insight that does include a device. So we discourage people from organizing by device, but I mean, this is really a topic sentence organized by insight that includes a
Absolutely.
device.
But
So,
not all students can write as richly as this student does, right? And sometimes with my own students, even what I tell them is you can take that topic sentence and just flip it,
mhm,
right? Keep all the ideas that are there, but
mhm,
lead with the bafflement and the distaste, and
correct.
then comment on how the luxurious imagery is one component that helps to convey that. And that also opens them up. I want us to hold true to what we said, that we really do
Yes,
like the insight organization better, right? this is
right.
this is a rare paragraph. This is a master paragraph.
And I would still say that even though there's a device in here, that this is a topic sentence built around insight.
Hmm.
So, but I did just want to clarify that.
Absolutely, it's a great paragraph.
Mhm.
Today we're going to focus on our commentary, specifically something that I know that we struggle with all year long, which is moving away from summary and into analysis. Now, Ms. Barber, this is where we might get some hate mail with what I'm about to say, but always know that
So all of that should go specifically to you then.
absolutely, yeah. But I mean well, okay,
Mm,
always good intentions.
let's
and
hear it.
and I a lot of students have told me that they've been told by their teachers that they should write as if the reader has
Mm,
not read the passage or has not read the
mhm.
work. And for that reason, oftentimes students are encouraged to provide summary. I'm of the opposing mind.
Same.
I always tell my students, your reader has not only read this passage already, but your reader is tired of this passage because they read it so many times during the course of the reading. You always open the reading by reading the passage. You read it after lunch. You read it at different times throughout the day. You read it at the end of the day. You're constantly working with this passage to the point where you have it memorized. It it's beyond the idea that it might come across as condescending, which there's some truth to that. It's unnecessary. And if your essays are already, as many of my students' essays are, if your essays are too short, then to fill in landscape with summary is not doing any,
Mhm,
it's not productive.
mhm.
So as well intentioned as that advice is, and look, your teacher's right and I am wrong, I will always say that. With my own students, I tell them the opposite. I tell them your reader knows the passage, knows the novel, knows the play, knows the poem, left and right,
Mhm.
inside and out. There's no need to provide summary. It's all
Right.
about the commentary. It's all about the analysis.
Yes, so you are writing assuming with the assumption that the reader knows this work. Just start with that assumption.
So you should get some hate email as well.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's get into it.
So when we look at row B of this rubric, we see under 1 point commentary, and then we see this commentary from 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, and 4 points. Commentary is really, what do you have to say about the evidence you have presented? And so commentary under the 1 point, look at what it says, summarizes the evidence, but doesn't explain how the evidence supports the student's argument. And then when we get to 2 points for commentary, now we have it explain some of the evidence that relates to the student's argument, but there's no line of reasoning, or the line of reasoning is faulty. And we talked a lot about this dividing line between 2 and 3, that now we're going to have a line of reasoning. In the commentary here, it's not summary anymore. That only gets you the 1 point. So now we have commentary that explains some of the evidence and also supports a line of reasoning. And then we move on up to 4 points. And we really want you to be in this 3 and 4 point range and have full confidence that you can write and provide enough evidence and commentary to get there. The 4 points, you are consistently explaining the evidence that you've provided, and it supports a line of reasoning. So when we think about summary, y'all know what summary is. It's just a retelling or recounting of the events. You're not really giving any of your original ideas or insight in there. You're just retelling what's already told. And so what we want to move to is, they use the word explain. Now we're explaining. So we're moving to our analysis, and this is the why part. If you're using the graphic organizer to take notes, what do you notice? How do you see the author doing it? And why is it important? We want to answer that why question. Some teachers may use the so what question. Why does it matter? So what? What does that mean? Why is it important? So analysis, we're going to be explaining patterns, contrast, unpacking layers of meaning in the text and telling why they are relevant. So that's the type of commentary that you need to be providing in your essays. So let's look at this. And, the first thing when I was thinking about how to present this information, this is exactly how you can know the difference between summary and analysis. SparkNotes. Probably a couple of y'all have heard of that. So when you're thinking about SparkNotes, you'll look at that. And you'll have a summary section of the work. It just flat out tells what happened. And then it has an analysis section. So that's the perfect way to think about it. We want to be in the analysis section, not the summary section. So this was, I think, from that same paragraph, or this is from the text in Zenobia. So the summary of this, the narrator feels powerless when confronted, which causes an internal struggle. All of that is really just stated up in here. And I think sometimes students think that maybe if they switch information around, that it's not summary, but still, if it's not any of your original ideas in there, it is just a summary. The narrator, he compares Zenobia to an illusion, applies that Zenobia implies she is an actress. But the analysis, now we're not only going to tell that there is a struggle, which has already been shown in the text, but we're going to tell why the struggle is there. Zenobia's falsely representing herself, calling herself an illusion, believing Zenobia wants her to feel ashamed. So we're answering the why questions, and we're expanding on why is the narrator saying this? Why is Zenobia thinking of that? Going below the surface, unpacking things that aren't just straight up written about. We're having to get into motivations and layers and meanings that are not directly stated. So let's think. And honestly, today's lesson, it really is just a review of things that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. When we think about how do we do analysis, what can lead us to analysis? We've talked a lot about identifying shifts. We see a shift in a character, maybe we see a shift in a setting, we see a shift in tone. What are we shifting from? What are we shifting to? That takes you straight into analysis if you're answering those questions. answering the question why over and over and over. I have a friend from California, Jory Krulder from Paradise High School. Like, what a crazy year for them. Hello to those people, to her students, because last year, they lost their school in the campfire, and now this year, um, you know, Corona. So just crazy, crazy. But she tells her students, think about like the annoying 4-year-old who is always asking the why question. I'm going out for a run. Why? Well, because I need to exercise. Why? Well, it keeps my heart healthy. Why? Well, because, so if you have a younger sibling, or just know a younger kid, they're always asking why, and you really want to have this voice in your head when you're unpacking parts of a text. Why, and just keep answering that question as many times as you can. Thinking about moving from surface level, this is what I actually see, to the depth. What's the motivation? What might this mean? How does this figurative language expand the meaning? What does it bring to it that wouldn't be there before? We're looking for patterns, connecting patterns, highlighting contrast. We've spent a lot of time talking about contrast. And so if you can highlight contrast and show, like, because of this contrast, we now see this as opposed to this. All of that is analysis when you start doing those things. So there's this scene, and we can't link to it here, but it is in the description below today, and there's a link to it. But I love the New York Times Anatomy of a Scene. I don't know if any of you have seen that, or teachers if you work with it, but basically, Anatomy of a Scene is where producers walk you through scenes in a movie. And so you're watching this scene in the movie, and the producer is telling you why they made the decisions to, shoot from this angle or zero in on this person. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want to put ourselves, um, we want to be thinking like this producer is. Oh, I'm showing this, I'm highlighting this because that really amplifies this character's voice right here. We want to be thinking about, why is the author doing this, and putting ourselves in thinking about author choice, author decisions, and what is shown and highlighted because of that. So if you watch this Anatomy of a Scene from The Hate U Give, there's so many good clips up there, but I love this one, and I think it will really give you insight into, this is what a producer's doing with a movie, but this is how we're wanting you to break it down in an essay as well. So that's just a great mentor text, mentor clip, to get you thinking about what good analysis looks like. So let me show this book, because I got a lot of questions. Some of the questions are mine, and some of the questions are from this book, Digging into Literature. This is a great book for literary analysis. I use it a lot. Again, I have you don't have to copy these. All of these are linked in today's notes, but these are all questions that we have reviewed and spent the last few weeks looking at these things. So there are ways into making meaning of a text. When we look at the setting, we can pick apart the setting and think about the setting as a specific author choice to communicate, to add meaning to character, or to add meaning to social commentary. The setting is not an accidental choice. And here are several questions that you could ask. And I know some people, like, you can use notes on the test. I think I'm gonna, and you do what your teacher says. I think I'm going to coach my students to maybe look at these questions a few times each week, just to get their mind thinking about it. And maybe when they're watching whatever they're watching on Netflix, they can be thinking through some of these questions in their head. When they're practicing writing thinking through some of these questions in their head. I think on test day, I'm not going to have my students have these printed out because I think students, y'all know what to do. I think you know the questions to ask, but I think these are good questions to review periodically between now and then. So we have questions for setting, questions for character. How are the characters described? What is their motivation? Questions for point of view. What biases does this point of view have? Questions for narrative structure. Am I starting in the middle? Am I flashing back? How does the conflict move the plot forward? How does the character respond to the conflict? Then we have all these questions about figurative language and imagery, and just thinking about how they expand and add meaning. The author's not throwing in figurative language just to make their word count. It's not like a college essay. They're there to expand meaning. So again, all of these questions are linked to today's lesson, and I would just encourage you to read over them a few times a week between now and the exam. Be thinking about these questions when you're watching TV, when you're reading, practicing with AP prompts. And then on exam day, this is just going to be second nature to you.
Yeah, that's the phrase that I was waiting for you to utter. The
It
more
took a
that you can
while, right?
do, well, no, but I think everything was
Mhm.
critically important. But anything and everything that you do between now and then to make these questions um, just naturally a part of the filters you use, the thoughts that pop into your head as you're reading, then you're bound to write a successful essay because you're going to be interpreting, analyzing, whatever word you want to use at
Mhm.
that analytical level instead of the summary, superficial level.
Right. And this is what you've been working on in your classrooms all year. Um, so it will be second nature to you on exam day. So think about these questions, review these questions, and then just on exam day, take that metaphorical 4-year-old with you when you go to write. And that 4-year-old is asking why? And you just want to answer as many why questions about the text as you can.
Mhm.
So this is the same paragraph that we looked at earlier and had highlighted the evidence. And now we're going to add in the analysis. So we start Hawthorne's use of luxurious imagery helps cement the narrator's bafflement, which later manifests in a distaste. Then we see this next sentence where all of the evidence is brought in. The narrator describes the opulence of the room adorned with, quote, a chandelier hung down, perfectly embedded with an extravagant amount of lights, quote, furniture exceedingly rich in the presence of fulfillment of every fantasy of an imagination. Now here comes the analysis. This use of posh, impressive imagery reveals just how wealthy Zenobia is. Each reference to luxury adds to the self-conflict in the narrator as well as he battles if he ever knew who Zenobia truly was and expresses thoughts of inferiority compared to her. So look at the amount of explanation, of commentary compared to the amount of evidence. I mean, we do have our evidence in there, but then there is a large chunk of commentary
You
on it.
want more blue than yellow, absolutely.
We really do want more blue than yellow. We want to hear you answering these questions.
And your
And
homework is going to help you practice this. But I'm thinking of the millions of essays that we've read in our career, right? How many of them would end at imagination? They say
yes,
something, there's a claim with that green, and then students provide the evidence. And students feel quite accomplished at that point. I said something and I proved it to you.
right.
Well, not quite. You said something and you pinpointed certain sections of the passage, But now you're expecting me to make the connections between that evidence and your claim. And that's not my job. It's your job to now flesh out that connection and really see, once we look at the text through the filter of my claim, this is the interpretation that I'm presenting. There's also, I think, the student who might provide just that first sentence in blue. This use of posh, impressive imagery reveals just how wealthy Zenobia is, period, and then move on to
Mhm.
maybe another claim and another set of evidence. And there are so many times as I'm scoring papers that I write in the margins, so what? Like, and
Right,
or continue, or
right.
what a missed opportunity, missed opportunity, missed opportunity to delve deeper into the commentary. Always, always, always err on the side of having more blue
Yes.
than yellow, because yellow is, those are someone else's words. We're going to use
Mhm.
those for evidence, but they're not the analysis that will get you uh, points. Or truly, I mean, let's forget the AP exam, right? You're going to go to college.
Right.
That's not what we do in college. It's not about just rewriting the novel or the poem. It's about what we have to say about that novel or poem. So that blue is the critical part of our essay writing.
And I know you wrote an essay, a paragraph last night. Um, it would be a good check for you to just go through and highlight and see. We work with highlighters all the time in my room. Evidence is highlighted with one color, and then analysis is another color, because students, they're always telling me, I have plenty of analysis, and then they highlight their paper and they're like, oops, because
Mhm.
it's right there. So that would be a good exercise for you to do with the paragraph that you wrote.
And when we're looking at commentary, we have to think about how we develop that commentary, and that's something very important. Especially if you're going to follow the advice that we just gave you of looking at last night's paragraph and highlighting it. I specifically, when you look at your commentary, don't just look at how much you put, but look to see if you're developing the commentary or if you're simply restating the same commentary over and over again. Once you have reached a certain level on the rubric, repeating yourself won't get you much farther than that, right?
Right.
You have to go to another claim, another piece of evidence, another interpretation, another bit of analysis to push that bar, because it's about, I've always told my students, it's about the breadth and the depth. You can't focus on one thing. You have to interpret multiple aspects
Mhm.
of this passage, of this character, of this relationship, of this setting, and have a lot to say about each of those things that you see. Now, that's the goal. Granted, limited time,
Right.
nerves, anxiety, whatever the case might be, but the goal should not be repetition for the sake of fulfilling Miss Barber's highlighting assignment, right? It's not just about the color, but are we moving the argument forward? Are we developing our commentary? So these are more questions for you to consider. And I would honestly go through all these questions for all of the videos. And again, make them part of the natural filters that you use when you approach text. It's not about memorizing them. It's about
Right.
understanding them, making sure that they make sense. If you understand the reason for them, then you're going to understand the necessity to think about these things as you encounter text.
Right. And you're really training your mind how to think, and
Mhm.
not just think about text, but how to, think about the news when you watch it. And you're training your mind to think about um,
Piece of art,
music when you
movie,
hear it, a
movies,
piece of
music,
art,
yeah.
a movie. And I mean, Mr. Escobar and I were laughing before we started this about how many emails we get from students who are 2 or 3 years out of their class, and they're like, you have ruined every movie for me because I can no longer just watch the movie and enjoy it. I'm having to think about, what does this symbol mean, or but um that's our goal, to ruin all of your movies. I'm
Absolutely,
kidding.
because it makes it more enjoyable that way. So again, we're dealing with this prompt, with this passage,
Last
right?
day.
Last day, but it's a very specific homework assignment, right?
Yes. So this is one of the student sample essays on the College Board website. It was like a middle of the road scoring one. And what we have done is dropped in a few places that you can take the analysis further. Answer the question, why? How would you extend this analysis? I think that's a great exercise with this paragraph, or you may even want to do it with the writing
own.
that you did. Yeah, that would even be more beneficial. So that's what we're asking you to do. We have a little more homework, don't we? Yeah.
Yep.
It's the weekend, so let's think about these things. If it's safe where you are for you to go outside and get some fresh air and maybe go for a walk, do that this weekend. Why don't you call somebody who's lonely? Like actually pick up the phone so they can hear your voice. Maybe it's a family member.
Text is not enough.
Exactly. Maybe it's a friend who you know is struggling. Show kindness in an unexpected way. I've already thought of what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something for some of my students. So just think of some way that you can surprise somebody with kindness. And you know what? Read something for fun. I mean, this is not all about just practicing AP stuff. I'm reading The Glass Hotel right now by Emily St. John Mandel. She wrote Station 11. That's what I'm reading for fun. I'm hoping to finish it this weekend. So those are some things. Let's think about just how can we take a little light into the world.
Absolutely. And reading for fun is important. By the way, I highly recommend now Junie B. Jones.
Yes.
My
Are y'all reading
7-year-old.
that at
Oh
home?
man, she is so
I love
bad.
it.
Absolutely. So listen, nothing is too young or too highbrow, or just
Yep,
pick up something that'll, help you bond with someone, connect with someone, love someone that much more. Take care, everyone.
exactly.
Have a great weekend.
Love y'all. Bye.